Corey, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
It's such a pleasure to have you in episode 7 of Real Steps, where you're going to give us a real estate market update while we get our steps in.
Perfect.
Well, as you can see, we aren't going to get too many steps in today. Why don't you let our viewers know what we have planned for us today?
I think we should go for a ride on the mountain bikes.
Perfect. Well, I got my mountain bike. We're on the North Shore and we're on Mount From. Probably going to do espresso. Does that sound good for the halftime show?
Yeah, let's get rolling.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, typically for these Real Step platform, I will feature real estate professional, but in your case, I thought it was very relevant to feature your company, Retreats and Venues, just because of some of the market trends that have been happening that have come out of the pandemic. A lot of companies are focusing on rebuilding the corporate culture, and what I do for work is helping companies rebuild that culture through experiential spaces. And so it's very closely tied to what Retreats and Venues is all about. So why don't you give us a quick debrief on what Retreats and Venues does?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So Retreats and Venues is a marketplace like Airbnb where companies can go to find and book their perfect retreat venue.
Perfect. And what are some of these market trends that kind of inspired Retreats and Venues to be born?
Yeah, it's a good question. As a result of the pandemic, essentially what's happened is everyone was forced to go remote. And as a result of that, a lot of challenges came up, challenges around how do you build culture, how do you create that connection with people so they open up, and how do you get people to brainstorm and bring unique and creative ideas when they're inside their home or that sort of thing. So those are really the trends that we saw. And I think a good example is Vistaprint. They were a fully in-person company, and as a result of the pandemic, they've totally switched all their office spaces to be more about collaboration, number one, and now they run retreats as a way to help them achieve their business objectives. And that's about it.
Great, well, that's a great example. Which roles are you seeing primarily are planning these retreats from these large companies?
Yeah, it's mostly co-founders if it's a smaller company. But if there's a chief of staff or head of people, those are the people who are responsible for culture and really helping employees thrive and be the best version of themselves. So those are the people that would work on it in those companies. Interesting.
And what sector are you primarily dealing with these days? Like, is it 100% remote, hybrid, 100% in office? Is it a blend?
Yeah, it's less about the sector and more about the beliefs the people have and the values. Those who believe and see value in bringing people outside the office to come up with unique ideas, build culture, etc. Those are the ones that are running retreats. But predominantly, those who will run more retreats are kind of remote first companies. So those will typically run quite a few more retreats, but also those running hybrid or in person still do run company retreats, just not as many as, say, a remote first company.
Love it. Well, all of this retreat talk reminds me that we got to get our quick session before the sun sets. What do you think?
Let's do it.
Okay, perfect. Let's do it. Quick rip, and then I'll ask you a couple more questions.
Perfect.
Nice job!
Thank you.
Not too shabby. I saw you on the berm. You crushed it.
Yeah, I fell down and nailed it.
Oh, I don't think I saw that part. Well, let's get right back to it before we get bitten alive by these mosquitoes that are coming to attack us right now.
Sounds good.
These companies that you're working with, how many retreats per year have they been committing to, and what kind of budgets are they allocating to it?
Yeah, again, it kind of varies based on the company. The remote first companies tend to run more retreats, and again, depends on the company. But some companies run up to 30, 40 retreats a year, like 1,000 person company. We'll run that all the way to just one retreat a year to bring people together. So it depends, but a lot of people do run quarterly retreats for their leadership at a minimum, and then do bring their employees together at least once or twice a year. Another company that we work with, Planting.Space, they'll bring people together, the entire team, once per quarter. So again, it just depends on their values and what their budget and how much of a return they see from these retreats. So.
Gotcha. And Out of the company leaders, like, do they have any expectations in terms of space requirements when they're booking the venues?
Yeah, the main thing for a venue is collaboration space and bringing people together. So typically they want some sort of meeting space, but not the traditional ballroom you might see at a typical hotel. They're looking for a unique space where you can bring people together that's inspiring to be their best selves, so meeting space, and also multiple breakout spaces to collaborate into smaller groups. Another requirement typically is activities for them to do, and food as well. So.
Gotcha. And now that these hospitality spaces, it's kind of a cool way to revive them after a 2-year downturn of the pandemic where they've been underutilized. How have you seen that they've started to adapt some of their amenity spaces to kind of tailor them to these offsites?
Yeah, it's a good question. I see a few venues who really see this trend are now 100% focusing on company retreats and offsites. So they're solely focusing on that. They don't tailor to leisure travelers anymore. And then other venues who are just recognizing the trend are kind of catching up. So some spaces really do, in my opinion, need to be revamped to kind of adapt to this new trend. But those who have adapted have beautiful spaces that are great for collaborating.
So are those like highly equipped boardrooms, retreat spaces for rejuvenation? What kind of program spaces are we looking at here?
Yeah, so high-speed Wi-Fi is a key one. Sometimes you're having 30, 50, 100 people. We're working with Epic Games. They're taking 60 people away, and they need 60 people to use Wi-Fi. So venues have to revamp the Wi-Fi space. And also just the health and wellness aspect. People want to feel rejuvenated and their best selves. So people are putting in like cold plunge stations, saunas, hot tubs, and this sort of thing.
Oh, that sounds awesome. I want to go on a retreat now. Well, it's been fantastic featuring you on this episode. I think you've brought to light, honestly, a brand new way of working that I think a lot of people in my industry may not have been aware of, but thinking about new ways, even in the hospitality industry. It's something what developers can think about when they develop these hospitality geared buildings, or interior designers and architects. There's a lot to think about here that you've brought to light.
Perfect, thanks. And yeah, it's really exciting to see the future of work merge right in front of our eyes, and the future looks bright and super exciting for the workplace.
So if anybody wants to book a retreat, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, good question. They can go on www.RetreatsandVenues.com, click on company retreats, and you can book an intro call with one of our venue specialists.
Awesome. So last question before I let you leave here is, how many kilometers do you think we got in today?
That is a good question. I have no idea, but a lot of rotations on the wheel.
Ah, okay. Rotations on the wheel are always good. I don't know if that's going to get me in shape, but awesome. Well, thanks everybody for watching, and until next time.
See ya.
Well, that was a great ride and a good episode. If you found that unique perspective on the future of work interesting, then make sure you like my episode and subscribe through my website for more. Thanks.